call the Affordable Housing Trust meeting on March 9th to order. We have a couple people remote, so we're going to kind of clock in with the roll call. Starting with you, Eric.
Eric here.
Matt.
I am here.
Dan.
Here.
Bruce is here, and Ed is
I'm here.
All right, so we have one presentation tonight. It's a LIP proposal. This is a proposal that was also given to the select board a couple weeks ago, maybe. It should be in your packet. It's the same presentation. Bill should be logging on shortly. I imagine. Is he in there?
No.
All right. Well, while we're waiting on him, an update on the 25 Worcester Street RFP. So we're past the inquiry phase, and we've had quite a few people inquire. So it's a lot more traction than I thought it was going to get, which is good. We'll see what else fleshes out as see if we actually collect any bids.
When do bids close?
Amber, what's the exact date for the bids to close?
April 5th.
Thank you. So a few of us were at the walkthrough. There was a couple people, interested parties that were there. What are we up to as far as total for inquiries?
Inquiries or plan holders?
Plan holders.
I'm looking right now. It looks like we have 17.
No kidding. That's great.
It's pretty active, which is good. But that's pretty much all we have for that. We'll have one more meeting at the end of the first meeting in April to start the review process for the bids. Hopefully we'll be there. One thing of note, I think everybody got it in email, is next week ZBA is hosting a meeting with their counsel, Dan Hill, to go over the ZBA's approach to LIP and 40B proposals now that the town is in safe harbor. So I know Ed wanted to have a little bit more of a broader discussion on that in a little bit, so we'll kind of throw that in under the housing production plan when we get to that point. But that's going to be a little bit lengthier of a conversation. And as we're waiting on Bill Levitt, I believe is his name. Has everybody had a chance to review the meeting minutes?
Yep.
I entertain a motion to accept the February 7th and February 9th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Meeting minutes as drafted.
So moved.
Any
Second.
discussion? All those in favor by roll call, starting with Eric.
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Bruce is an aye as well. Item number 6 on the agenda, while we continue to wait, is the annual report and funding request. This is something I typically do every year. Eric's going to be there anyways at the next CPC meeting. They traditionally just ask some questions about what's been going on and any funds that have been expended from the CPA funds allocated to the trust and what we want to apply for this year, et cetera, et cetera. So if you want me to continue to just go and provide the update, I'll be there with Eric anyways. If we all want to show up as a group, you just need to let me know over the next week so we can post the meeting agenda.
Can you remind me what if anything did we apply for 25 Worcester Street?
We haven't done anything yet. We're gonna miss it too this year because
Okay.
we won't even have the bids back. You assume that the 10% is gonna be, well, it's pretty much programmed in.
Right.
Eric, did you move anything forward with rental assistance or anything? Is it gonna be springtime
Yep.
meeting for that or fall?
It'll be spring. Yep. There's some outstanding stuff that we have to figure out. So I know Joanne just emailed me last night. I've just been busy. I haven't been able to review it, but just around like the operations and like management of it.
Okay.
But all of the CPC was positive towards it in the initial meeting.
Okay. Still skipping around as we're waiting. I'm gonna send him a quick email just to.
You
Hang
didn't
on.
tell him 8?
Did I tell him 8?
Yeah.
Did I tell him March 9th?
Yes.
Okay.
I heard from him a little after 7.
My
So
fault.
I'm confident that he's coming.
Okay. All right. Let's see. So item number 4 on the agenda, as we're backtracking through, is the GSX grant agreement. I haven't seen anything. Kathleen, have you heard anything on our end about this at all?
I've heard nothing,
Okay.
nothing, and it's so odd because I sent a message to Gemma, their counsel, after our last meeting, because I had changed to the grant agreement to talk about, our getting that property back. If they didn't go forward, et cetera, and I haven't heard word one.
Okay. So the last I've seen is the email chains gone back and forth between them and the town is they're negotiating what they're going to do about an extension and things of that nature. Fiona?
Hi, Bruce. Hi, members of the trust. Yes, so we are planning, we've been trying to set up a conversation with them, and hopefully that'll be happening next week.
And that would be just based around pitching it to the select board to see if there's an appetite to extend.
Yes. And also finalizing some language
Okay.
that's in there.
So I don't think I'm going to be privy to a lot of those conversations as it's moving forward. So I just want to make sure that we make it abundantly clear to them that they need more time than October.
Okay. Yeah. And Kathleen, I can coordinate.
I think
with
we're
you.
pretty clear on that, Bruce.
Okay, good.
Kathleen, I can
Yeah.
coordinate with you as well and bring you up to speed. I apologize for not connecting with you.
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, because as so far as I'm concerned, I saw a random email from them saying, "How's the status of the grant agreement?" And I felt like saying, "When you get a signed purchase and sale agreement extension, I'd be happy to talk to anybody about it."
Right,
But
Mhm.
until then, nothing's happening, and I'm not billing for it.
right.
So,
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I will send you. I will connect with you about the status.
thanks, Fiona.
Sure.
All right, we have 2 others that are going to take a little bit more than 4 minutes time apiece. So
No, there he is.
perfect. Hey, Bill, why don't you take off mute and make sure we can hear you, and then we'll get you set up to start your presentation.
Great. Can you hear me?
We are good.
Oh, terrific.
So just for everybody, I know I mentioned this once, but the presentation that we have in our packet that Mr. Lovett is about to give us was given to the select board. They're a LIP candidate, so to speak, and he wants to spend a few minutes bringing the housing trust up to speed and hopefully look for an endorsement to send along the way to the select board. So without further ado, Bill, why don't you introduce yourself? Take it away.
Sure. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight. We're excited to be here and virtually in front of you, and hope to meet everyone in person at some point in the near future. Just logistically, a quick question. Do you have the presentation? Would you like me to pull it up? It'll just take me a minute to pull it, but
I can share it.
I'm sorry.
Amber can share.
Yeah, I should be able to share it.
Great. So I'll give you a little bit just of history while that is happening. So Claremont is a family real estate office based in Bridgewater, Massachusetts. We own and operate primarily hotels and apartments. We have 12 hotels throughout the Commonwealth, and one in Connecticut, one in New York. And we also own and operate about 3,000 apartments. The company was started 55 years ago by Pat Carney, who's still the patriarch of the family and the patriarch of Claremont. And he started his company in, I think it was 1968. He was buying through a state-funded program. He was buying 3 families in New Bedford and converting them to 6 families, and creating housing with that regard, and then just grew his business. And we've owned upwards of, I think, 13,000 apartments at one point in time. But currently our portfolio is about 3,000 properties in Massachusetts, or 3,000 units in Massachusetts. And they range from, we have market rate projects, we have a number of 40B projects, we have some LIHTC in our portfolio. So we kind of run the gamut of properties and property types. So we acquired just over 12 months ago now, actually about 13 months ago, we acquired 5 Millennium Drive in Grafton. And we really like the site for a number of different reasons. We love a challenge is probably the first reason. And I don't know if anyone's familiar and has physically been out to this site at any point in time, but there's about 78 feet of fall from the high point on this property to the low point on this property. And you can't see it from the street, but if you ever decide you want to go for a nice hike, you can certainly get some steps and some cardio in going from one side of this property to the other. One of the things we do love about the property, though, kidding aside, is that, the immediate proximity to the MBTA station. So we are anticipating, and when we jump into the drawings in a moment, we're intending some direct connection to that MBTA station. And we have spent a lot of time, and I'll get into this further too as we get into the plan, but just looking at the plan and what we can do to make the resident experience the best, and also make the site the most economical, because again, there is a huge grades change here, and unfortunately it's not sand, it's rock. So we do have a big site work here. And so part of what we've been doing over the last 13 months, in addition to the design, is we worked with our neighbor at Primary Colors, and we've actually in a position that they're allowing us to acquire some additional property from their land, which will allow us to get a little bit more. It helps us a little bit more with grading, also helps us more with parking. So it's been a very welcoming neighborhood thus far. So without further ado, and please, at any time, if there's any questions, please stop me. If there's any questions now, happy to answer. If not, I'm happy to jump right into the presentation.
So actually, Bill, I have a question maybe for you or maybe for Amber. Is this a project that would impact the number of units that we have within the new MBTA communities zoning law?
Well, not at this time, because the overlay district hasn't been implemented yet. But I think Fiona's going to spend a little bit of time on that as we get through the presentation.
Yeah, that's correct, Bruce. We're still analyzing scenarios right now. And we submitted our action plan, of course. It got approved. We got our letter, and yeah, we're testing the compliance module right now.
Okay.
Bruce, I think with the MBTA with that zoning, it's really about the number of units that are allowable. It doesn't really, you're not required to actually have a number of units. So whether these get built or just are, allowed, I don't know if that makes a difference for MBTA.
MBTA communities has to have multifamily by right, a density of 15 units an acre. It has to be contiguous, 50% contiguous area.
Yeah, and I guess that was my question. If it were within that zone, it might alter the process that we're going through. But
Nope. It would not.
Oh, it would not. Okay.
No, it would not.
This is all brand new to me. Okay, thanks.
So you were asking if this could be done by right in that
without
future
having
zone.
to go through.
Okay.
Yeah.
When Bill gets through this, we had a conversation a little earlier this week on some of the strategy and stuff like that. But and in the end of the day, it's up to them whether they want to do proceed whichever avenue they want to take. but it's certainly something to look at.
Okay.
And just one last comment about that to answer Ed. The process is probably going to, we're a little ahead of the curve right now, thankfully, but it's still going to take probably another year to get things finalized. So I don't want,
Sure.
that's kind of what we're looking at timeline wise.
Okay.
And a town meeting vote.
Correct.
Oh boy,
Yeah,
forgot about that. Sorry, Bill.
We did, and I think, this is obviously a logical place for the towns, and I don't want to get off track, but I think from our perspective, this is obviously a logical place for that zoning. Looking at potential timelines, right, between this and the MBTA, this appeared to us to be a quicker path to approval, but we'll see. You never know.
We hijacked you pretty well there, Bill.
Yeah, sorry, we got you off track.
That's not at all. It's great discussion. So thank you. Any other questions, or would we prefer to jump in?
Yeah, let's jump right in.
Okay. So just, I kind of touched on some of this, with regard to who Claremont is. One of the things that I think is important for the community to understand is we are an owner of our assets. We're not a merchant builder. Claremont is a family office. It's truly a family in regards to the fact that two of my colleagues are Ned and Patrick Carney, who are second generation Carneys. Their sister also works in the family office part of the company. The Carneys are a real estate family. They intend to remain a real estate family. So some of the properties that we own, Pat Senior built, in the late 70s and early 80s and still owns to this day. So I think that, I'd just like to point that out because we're a little different than some of the, we're not going to build this, get this permitted, build it, and then flip it. That's just not our business model. I think it gives us a little bit different perspective on how we design and how we build. I think we can jump right into the next slide. I'm fairly certain that this group is aware of where this is, but I'll take a quick one through that. Again, a long-term holder of the assets. We own 3,000 apartments, hotels. Good. I did that off the top of my head, and I got the stats right. So this is actually a good slide of some of the properties that we own currently and manage currently. We do manage all of our own assets as well. So Claremont is a property manager. So all the employees, we have about 450 employees in our company. The vast majority of our employees are working on site, whether it's the leasing agents, it's the general managers at the hotels, the cleaners at the hotels, the service technicians at the residential properties, et cetera. So again, these are a couple of the projects that we own. We've developed some of them, and some of them we've acquired through just real estate acquisitions.
Bill, are any of those 40Bs?
Viva is a 40B. Aeronaut is 10% affordable. Matrix is a 40B. Axis is a 40. Yes, they're all, with the exception of Aeronaut, 40Bs.
All right, thank you.
And I've been with I've been with Claremont for about 2 years, just under 2 years at this point. And I've done a number of 40Bs as well with my previous company. So, as well as LIPS. I can also mention just that we're bringing another project. We just got approval for a project in Plymouth. It's 2 phases. The first phase is 198 units, and then we're working on a number of other local deals for development. I touched on our property management. Again, we self-manage all of our assets.
ask these guys if they want to buy Pine Street.
Yeah, seriously.
No. The answer is no. A slight tangent, but I don't know who could ever financially build that project. It
Sadly,
just,
we don't know either.
That's correct.
I looked at that project before we even looked at this one, and my opinion is that that's an unbuildable project, even in a good market. And today we're not in a good market, so. But I've been wrong before. So obviously you're understand the location. So we just put this in the package so people have a real clear understanding of where the property is. And then just this is probably the most valuable slide, just because of the fact it shows that proximity to the MBTA parking lot. The kind of just page north of the primary colors, going towards the cul-de-sac, that green area, that's the area that we acquired from Primary Colors, just to help us. Like I said, it was about an acre of property, and we made sure that everything still kept all the other buildings in conformance. We also think, just from a physical location, there aren't a lot of abutters. So, to us, it feels like a really good location to not upset the apple cart either. So to take a look at plans and elevations, again, these are all concepts at this point, but they're concepts that we've worked pretty hard to develop. So I'll talk a little bit more about the grading and the thought process here and kind of the experience on this property. Originally, can I, never mind. We spent a lot we looked at a couple of different versions of this plan, more than a couple. We looked at, because of the way the property has a grade change, we looked at taking and tiering the buildings, so having one building higher than the other. We looked at, making it 3 buildings, going from top of screen to bottom. What we finally came down to, and what we were able to do with the addition of the Primary Colors land, was, plateau the property. It minimized the retaining walls. We were able to work on Millennial Drive. Our original plan had the entrance to the project coming in the upper right-hand corner, kind of right off into the back of the building. And just from an aesthetic standpoint, if you would be coming up a hill looking at a massive building, and it just didn't feel right. So what we were able to do is work with our civil engineer. We moved the drive up. And so now when you come in the entrance drive, Boulevard Drive, and you come and you turn into the property, right, our amenity and our main entrance will be there. So it really makes it feel, like it's not a small building, but it makes it feel like when you arrive, you're really arriving at someplace special. Not to get too into detail, but again, once you pull in and you look through that and get into the amenity area, it kind of looks out into the courtyard. So it's really, I think, going to be a nice, aesthetically nice, but also a physically nice property. And you can see at the very bottom of this page, there's our concept for the path that would lead down to the parking lot at the MBTA station. We have a dog park, because you have to have a dog park and want to have a dog park these days. We did want to, from a physical location standpoint, we didn't want the dog park too close to the buildings. We also didn't like that there was a previous iteration of this plan that had this all parking, and it just felt like a sea of parking. So we were able to accomplish 2 things by moving that dog park. One was to break up all that blacktop, but also move the dog park away from, the units where it had been previously. This is a surface park property. I know this is an affordable housing discussion. But we do try to, there's a lot of asphalt here. However, we did try to make sure that we were like not putting all the parking at one end of one building, right? So we really tried to spread the parking out in order to accommodate everyone, and proximity of parking to the units throughout. So it's been pretty fun to really figure this plan out. It's, sometimes you just get, a flat, it doesn't happen very often, don't let me kid you, but occasionally you'll get a very flat site and, sand. This is not that. So that's kind of where we are from a site plan standpoint. Kathleen, apologize. I see a raised hand. I don't know if you had a question for me or if.
No, I have a question. I have a question for you. I was just curious about the number of parking spaces per unit.
1.6 is the ratio.
Are you wondering whether or not there would be a possibility of reducing that number since you're next to a train station?
That's what I would potentially propose would be to, if we were to go that route, what I would do is ghost in some of the parking so that if we needed it, I would love to tell you yes. I would absolutely love to tell you yes. This location is a little unproven insofar as we are going to absolutely encourage people to use the train, whether they're going to go to Worcester or they're going to go to Boston a couple days a week. I don't know that we're going to be able to get people. I don't think we're going to have many people who have no car.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, and we do have studios in this project, which is not something that a lot of the comparable properties have.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if somebody's at the veterinary school, they would bike or walk. We would consider, like I said, ghosting in some of the parking. So if we did have an issue down the road with parking, we could basically pave those areas. But we just aren't quite there yet,
Okay.
unfortunately. Great question.
Ready for the next slide?
Sure. So again, but this is that elevation I was trying to describe before, where when you come up the hill and you turn into the property, the center of the screen would be the amenity area. So we're trying to highlight that. The demographic we think that we're going to be attracting here is going to be, younger. It's going to be an outdoor demographic is one of the key components. So if you look at the building, it's got a modern look. We're bringing in some of the wood tones to reflect the forest around. We're gonna have a outdoor lifestyle, like an outdoor gym almost, where people can run circuits and do different exercises outside. Obviously, there's biking trails. There'll be a heavy emphasis on dogs and walking and health. So, take the next slide, please. Another view here, the overview, if you keep going. So we will have a pool, we'll have some fire pits. In this instance, we didn't have the relocated dog park, but that's just because of the timing of this. Unit mix and layout. So we have, as I mentioned, we have studios on this project. So a total of 14 studios, which is about 7% of the overall density of the project. 96 one bedrooms, 5 one pluses, 75 two bedrooms, 18 two bedroom pluses, and then the 25 three bedrooms. This mix may fluctuate a little bit, probably not too much, but it could fluctuate slightly. And then, of course, in the LIP, 25% of these would be affordable at the 80% AMI. So,
What 25%?
I'm sorry.
Where are you drawing the 25% from? Is it going equal ratios from
Yep.
studio
Yeah.
to 3?
So studio in I'm trying to think of it. Let's see if there's one that's easy on math. Of course not. So yeah, 25% of the studios would be affordable. 25% of the one bedrooms would be affordable. 25% of the two bedroom would be affordable, and 3 bedroom affordable. One question I did have for this board. So when we calculate the affordable rents, we're using area MI 80%. Following the formula, does Grafton have its own utility calculations? We just use standard utility deductions on these, but if some towns will have their own standards for utility deductions, and we'd be happy to incorporate those into the numbers we've
As far as I
projected.
know, we don't.
Nope.
Okay,
So I'm sorry, you were using 80% AMI?
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I can try and nail down some data, Bill.
Okay. I can tell you exactly how we came up with our numbers. I'm sure they're within, a few dollars. Again, just overall floor plans, you'll see the amenities are spread between building 1 and building 2, with the pool kind of bridging the gap between the two. And then the units are, fairly simple, stacked. We're certainly understand, and I'm imagining this board and DCHD would weigh in on locations and sign off of affordable units. Obviously, those need to be distributed evenly throughout the property. We would welcome your insight. We'll make those recommendations early on in the process. Then I would assume bring them to you for your review and recommendations, and then the result of that would be sent to DCHD to review and approve. Typically in a comprehensive permit, we would, if there's a local preference desire, we would obviously be happy to include that in the into the comprehensive permit to use efforts for local preference. These are, some typical units for the 1, 2s, and 3s. The 3 bedroom units, not one I would ever build, but we will be modifying that. It's just not a great layout, but we still have a little bit of work to do on that one. Other than that, the other 3 are in pretty good shape. Then we got into the select board, the financial analysis. So what we did was an exercise on projected revenue from the project, projected costs associated with the project, and kind of the net neutral, a little bit of a positive for the town for the project. So we looked at total annual real estate taxes of $500,000. We looked at, we did calculate the taxes based on 100% of the units here, so we didn't take anything out for the affordable or anything. So that was taxes. I think next we looked at auto excise taxes. We did not count the 1.6 that we have parking for, because some of that will be guests. Not everyone will own a car. Some of it will be staff. So we tried to take a little bit of a conservative approach, mildly conservative approach on that calculation. I think next was water and sewer fees. The select board did point out to us that the water and sewer are a different entity. So this really doesn't. This was in another presentation that we were given for guidance, so we included it. But we understand after the last meeting with the selectmen that the water and sewer is really not something that the town can consider to be its revenue. So we will have to make a modification to this component.
Well, we blur the line on the sewer receipts. We share a DPW coordinator with them, so the enterprise
Okay.
fund there's a considerable amount of overlap now. Water is its own municipality.
Okay. All right. That maybe
That's
maybe
fine.
it was
It's just
the water.
nuance.
Okay, thank you. I will double check that. And then we looked at the connection fees associated with with water, sewer, fire, and building permit for a total of $932,000. Again, that number is based on kind of looking at the overall project, the fees, and looking at how that gets broken down. So to look at annual revenue, 874,000. Again, there will be an adjustment on water for that. And then the one-time fees were, I think, on the next page. Okay, and then we got into expenses. So the cost is associated with the SAC multiplier, which is school age children. Again, the feedback from the select board was that we use some general guidance that the state provides, and again was used in a previous application, but the comment was made by the select board that they would prefer to rely on their own numbers for projects with school age children. So this number, my point being that this number could vary slightly, but with this, there's a financial calculation associated with it, which I think we have on the next page.
Did they say who was providing the numbers that they are using?
That the town's using?
Yeah.
No. And I wasn't 100% certain where but they said they were going to use they didn't name any other projects specifically, but they said they were going to use other projects in the town.
I would guess it's Eastland. Bruce.
It can't
But
be that far
Eastland's-
off what they're proposing here.
Yeah,
Right.
Eastland's not built though, is it?
It's not, but they used a vetted metric for school age children calculations.
And that's what this came from. We use the same source as Eastland. That's what was given to us.
So there you go. Yeah, that's what it would be though.
Okay.
Okay, so you guys are all on the same page.
Yep.
Perfect.
So school age children costs associated 580,000, 581,000.
So can I just sort of pump the brakes on this slide for a second? And I know this is meant well, and I'm sure that, in every community you go to, you need to provide for an accounting for, what it's going to cost to have kids move in, but this isn't how it works. So, we get a $30-something million budget I think $45 million budget for schools, something like that. And let's say it's 30 and you get 3,000 kids, that's $10,000 per kid. But that's not really how it works. You add an additional kid into the schools, and actually the cost per kid goes down. So I know, you get a foundation budget number and a Chapter 78 number, but just because you're adding kids to schools doesn't mean it's going to cost you another $500,000. It depends.
I would,
It depends, right? So like if you have an even spread of kids across schools, you're not even going to notice. It's not going to cost anything. You're not hiring an additional teacher necessarily, unless you've got 53 kids all in the same grade. Even then, I hope our teachers aren't costing $580,000 a year. I don't think that they are. Not yet. Anyway.
I would love to continue. Can I bring you to another town?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I couldn't.
Sometimes I want you to bring me to any other town. It would be easier to build housing. But anyway, go on.
I mean, I look. I think that
This is a safe space.
This is a welcome here.
Safe space.
I'll hear about this comment later.
When you, and this is just a brief aside, when you have to build infrastructure, then there's a cost. But I tend to, in my experience and understanding, the general population of children, school-age children, is going down. So most towns have the infrastructure in place. So when you add children, maybe you're adding a teacher, but most towns don't have to grow their physical infrastructure, which can be more expensive.
We're pretty all set with that for the time being.
But we're going to use some of this one-time money that comes in from the permitting on this and actually fund a master plan that would give us the good 10-year ballpark. So these metrics that you're providing us with as far as school-age children coming into the system, the district, we'll be able to monitor for.
Great. That's
I
the
just
nice
made
part
that up,
about these
Bill,
things
so-
too.
But
Is the school-age children don't come in all in one swoop, right? I mean, we'll be fortunate if we're on the ground in a year.
Right.
It's going to take 2 years to build the project and 2 more years to lease it up. So we're probably 5 years by the time that those 53 children are, or hopefully, if all goes well, in the schools. So it's not like you're dropping 53 kids in at one time.
even if we were dropping 53 kids into the district at one time, it's still something that we're
fine.
with.
Great. Thank you.
Bring me more kids.
We're all patriots here. We want to teach the young. make
They all
good
need places to
citizens.
live. It's fine.
So again, we use similar metrics to the Eastland numbers, in cost per household. A household is, when it's an apartment aggregated with 232 other apartments, that cost, and again, those metrics go down. So this is our best expectation or guess as to what the services would cost.
Numbers look great.
So kind of summarizing everything, total projected costs, we're looking at, about just under $700,000 a year from an impact based on metrics and numbers. And then an income, I think if we put it all together on the next slide, if I remember. Please appreciate that. So projected revenue 874, again, we'll have to modify that slightly because of the water. The projected costs. So even based on the conversation with the select board, even with if we took the water component out, you're still a net positive to the town, and then plus the one-time revenues. So it's hopefully a beneficial project, not just financially, but also for serving housing production for the community. So I think that traffic, obviously that's an important one. We have had a traffic study done. It is a positive study. There's not an expectation And again, they're applauding the proximity to the MBTA and utilization of the MBTA, and looking at this, and this is the same group that did the traffic study for Pine Street. So they're aware of everything that's going on in this area. They really didn't think that this project was going to drive, additional traffic signaling or really any heavy infrastructure improvements. So that was great.
Bill, when you presented to us, you also mentioned that you were exploring walking access from the property to the train station. Is that
Yes.
something that's panned out? I just wanted to mention that to the trust. I think it's an important benefit to the people that would potentially live in this community. They'd be able to basically walk right from the property to the train station. So that would be their commute.
Yeah, so if you wanted to go back to the beginning, probably I think that overall that first slide that showed the site plan. That one right there, yes. So at the bottom of your screen, and obviously we need to make this ADA compliant and mass compliant for accessibility. So if you'll see, yep, right there, there's a switchback, and then there's a path that will come down. We obviously need to coordinate this with the MBTA, but we're confident that we would be able to do that. But there would be an ADA compliant path that would come from the property down to the parking lot. So maybe if you went back, and I appreciate you doing this, to the yes. So that path would end you pretty much like within the last or the first third of the rear, pretty close to where that P in parking is for Republic parking. It would land you just about there. So you'd be able to walk up and back. Or ride a bike up and back, whatever your preference.
What did the traffic study report for trips per day?
Can I circle back with you on that? I don't have that at the
Okay.
tip of my tongue.
The reason why I ask is, isn't when Centec went in, and Fiona, you might have to catch me up on this because it's been a while since I looked at it, but I thought we were only supposed to generate a certain amount of traffic on Centec Boulevard. We had this discussion when UPS came through to on the Russell property, and they had to provide a separate egress altogether because their truck traffic volume was going to be too much for the what was in our bylaws for the Centec Park.
I can look into that, Bruce. I don't have that information readily available, but I'll look into that.
Okay.
And I'll follow up with Fiona too to get her the traffic so we can get her the numbers.
It's a solid like 4 or 5 years ago now, but it was mentioned back then
I remember that.
when we were on the board, and it was the reason why they had to go out through Shrewsbury.
Yep. People are all set. Can we scroll down to the benefits slide? I think it's the next page. There you go. So, Bill, I think this is a good slide. One of the discussions that we're going to have in a little bit is, where we are generally with affordable housing in Grafton. But where our goal is 39 affordable housing units a year, that keeps us in safe harbor. And I think one of the misconceptions that people have about safe harbor is they feel like, once you're in, you're in. You're really not. Development is constantly going on around us, and safe harbor is good for a year. So it's good practice to find projects that we can all get behind and support that are appropriate in appropriate locations and have an appropriate number of affordable units per project to keep us in a place where we're going to be able to plan better for housing in Grafton. So, part of what's attractive to me about this project is that it meets our goal. Or at the very least, it assists us in meeting this goal.
Yeah, and to piggyback a little bit on that, you know, I did a project in Needham where that happened to be a 390 unit project, but it got Needham from, you know, 10%, it was like 10.5% to 14%. So they projected that they were going to be, you know, they were in safe harbor because of, even with projected, safe harbor is probably not the right term to use, but they could control their own destiny, and they've continued to produce additional housing, but they had complete control of it now because they're at such a high percentage, and they were insulated for the next, I think they projected like 23 years until that, because they got the credit for those 390 units. So we're happy to be part of that that equation.
Bill, can I bring you to some other meetings?
Absolutely.
That's got to be the goal, right?
Well, I think that from a trust perspective, the goal is to continue to make more affordable housing available to 80% of AMI is great, but 80% of AMI for a typical person trying to get a new job, whether it's working for the municipality, a starting teacher or something like that, is still going to price out most of those individuals.
So that's a good segue, Bruce. Ray's the person that is going to negotiate this one.
Yes.
We just had a meeting with Vinicasa on Snow Road. The select board just asked them to do 15% of the units at 80% AMI and 10% at 60% AMI. And that was the contingency for the LIP endorsement. So if the trust has, not sure exactly how we would do this, but I guess if trust members have thoughts on those particulars that they would wish the select board to negotiate, I guess let me know, or let Ray know, because ultimately he's going to be the person in the room with Evan and these guys.
That's kind of where, and perhaps we should finish up this conversation with Bill before, because this is also something that Ed wanted to talk about. But the negotiation tactics, LIP proposals, and things of that nature, you know,
Yep.
It's tough from our perspective to weigh in on it if it's a single person who's not even a member of the trust, and we're kind of second fiddle to the endorsement of the project to begin with. So I don't know if we need, should have a trust member in that room when that negotiation's happening, or if that's even allowed, or somewhere along the line. But again, that's probably for a conversation after Bill wraps up his presentation.
Okay.
I would say that from the 40B benefits here, the 25%, which I think was an ongoing back and forth between you and the town administrator as you were developing these projects, that of course is great for us. 59 units is fantastic, but judging from the other projects that are come before us, I would weigh the balance between making sure this is a marketable development that's actually going to get built, and then on the other hand saying, okay, well, they're at 80% AMI, it's still affordable, not as affordable as we like, but we're actually getting the units. So it's kind of like a weird, position to be in where we have to weigh one against the other.
Yeah, Bill, just to skip to the end here, I like your proposal. When I've been doing this for 15 years, and every single time a project comes up, there is always some sort of opposition that says, we support affordable housing, just not here. And I always say, well, where then? And if someone said to me, well, Millennium Drive over there, I'd be like, oh, that's a good point. This is a great location for this. As we creep up on getting into the sort of more permanent safe harbor, which is 10% of our housing stock being subsidized housing units. The sheer numbers mean a little bit less to me than they did 10 years ago when we were back at 350 subsidized housing units. I would agree with Matt in the select board's take that I would like to see something in a lower AMI, and I don't know what that means for viability of your project. If we were to get at 59 units, if we were to get, say, 20 at 60% and the remaining at 80%, I would be a little bit more happy with that, because look, we hear this all the time with the feedback that we're getting from the public, which is $300,000 a condo isn't cheap. It's not. And when you have an affordable unit, what you're giving up is the opportunity to earn equity in the property for the time that you're there. And at the price, even at 80% AMI in this area, taking that gamble to move in there isn't as big a payoff as it would be if you were banking that extra 20% of your income to be able to pay for life. So that's the sort of thing I'm interested in. Otherwise, I really like the proposal. I'd like to see a few more 3 bedrooms. You've got a lot of studios. There's a good amount of 2 bedrooms. I'd like to see just a little more shift toward 3 beds for people who need it. But otherwise, that's my feedback.
Joe, I appreciate that very much. And I think you're keying in on some very critical elements here. One is that, I mentioned that we underwrote and we closed on this property a year ago. The world has changed substantively over the last year. So, this went from a deal that, was reasonable, to a deal that's just gotten tighter. So those we'll happily run those elements. You alluded, we did have some conversations at different points in time with Evan about tax deals or not tax deals per se, but tax, all these things get mixed into the pot, and we're happy to consider all of them. We need a project that we can get a bank to finance.
Of course.
And so that's the only, I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So
that's fair, Bill. And look, when we approached Vinicasa with that, that's exactly what they said. They said, look, we would love to do this. We got a probably from them. But we got we need to go check with our lenders to make sure that this is still a go at that AMI threshold for this number of units. So we understand that. What I would hope, though, is that you can put everything on the table from the town side and from your side to try to get as much affordability as possible. And maybe that includes some permanent relief, for example, or whatever.
Sure.
Whatever you need, and whatever the town needs to try to make that happen is ultimately the goal. Because as we look at these projects, the numbers on this project look pretty good. The numbers on Snow Road were similar. But in terms of the cost of services and the revenues that come, it's pretty close to a wash.
Yeah.
It's maybe a little bit positive. So one of the things that we look at quite favorably in terms of the benefits that come from a project is if we can provide units at lower AMI thresholds. That's a perpetual benefit to a large community of people in the town of Grafton, and so beyond the marginal tax benefits, that's another thing that I think developers can really bring to the table. And we've had a couple of developers now that have both been willing to kind of play ball with the AMI thresholds, and the town understands that there's a financial impact to you guys on that, but it's important to us.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. In the other item, just for dial or discussion, because I'm very interested in this. So on the additional 3 bedrooms, the tricky part about the 3 bedrooms, and I'm assuming, but I don't want to, so affirm this for me if you would please, is the importance of the 3 bedrooms for on the affordable side. Is that a correct statement?
That's correct. Yeah.
The issue that I've seen happen in a town like Grafton, right, is the 3 bedrooms on the affordable side do well, right? They do exactly what they're supposed to do. The market rate 3 bedrooms don't always do that well because at the price point that those market rate 3 bedrooms are at, they don't necessarily fill up as quickly because somebody may choose to rent a single family home, or there's other options. So we just, again, to be completely transparent and talk about and this is great dialogue about the financial viability of these. When you have to look at the full impact of that 3 bedroom number. So maybe there's something we can do where we can not increase the overall number of 3 bedrooms, but maybe we can work on the number of affordable 3 bedrooms. And I just don't know the answer to that from DHCD's standpoint, but I can get that fairly quickly. Maybe we could, and I'm thinking out loud, maybe we could shift some of the affordable. In some municipalities look at affordability on a square footage basis too, rather than a per unit basis. And maybe what we could do is, I think Cambridge does it that way. I know Cambridge does it that way because I did a project there. But maybe what we could do is, if this trust thought that studios weren't necessarily as important to have as affordable, maybe there's a way to reduce the number of affordables, of studios, reduce that 25% and increase the number of 3 bedroom affordables. Again, we're flexible in that. I'm just trying to think. I would be a little hesitant to add a lot of 3 bedrooms to the overall project mix, just based on experience.
I appreciate that, Bill. Actually, that stands to reason when you say it like that. One of the things obviously that we're concerned about is an ability for a family with children to be able to have units. We get, a lot of these projects come in and it's a lot of studios and it's a lot of 2 bedrooms, and typically you don't see a lot of 3 beds. So we try to encourage it where we can on the affordable side. But I appreciate that feedback.
It's tough for us to weigh in on that until you get into the actual LIP negotiation and see what the select board is driving at, what their needs are. So, but judging from what we've seen in past LIPs, that it's something that would go a long way.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Anything else?
Bill, you got anything else for us?
I'm trying to think if there was anything. No, I think we've covered a lot, which has been great. Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate you coming. Anybody has any questions for Bill? As they digest this material, want to get back to cycle your information through either myself or Amber.
Great.
And we'll get it over to him.
Terrific. Thank you very much. And I will, Fiona, I'll follow up with you with regard to the parking study.
Perfect. Yep.
We'll also work on running a couple of different scenarios with regard to the AMI.
Great.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
You too.
You too.
Take care.
So we have one discussion item that Fiona's here for. That's for the just really brief because it's getting past my bedtime.
Yep.
Fiona, but the CMRPC Regional Housing Coordinator Program. If you could just touch briefly on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the CMRPC reached out to me. They are interested in starting a regional housing coordinator program. We're looking for communities to participate. The first year would be no cost to the town, and it would be about 4 hours a week. We are one of 5 communities that did respond. Shrewsbury, Auburn, Berlin. The last one I'm blanking on, I apologize. It's in the meeting materials, but yeah, so essentially I had a discussion with Evan and the planning board, and we wanted to kind of see the progress that this person could potentially make and how they could be an asset to the town, to the trust, and myself. And then we would evaluate further continuation of the program where in the upcoming years based on the progress of this individual. The CMRPC obviously would like to see Grafton stay in the program, and after the first fiscal year, they would look for ongoing contributions, but we're not on the hook to do that. And they made that perfectly clear with CMRPC that we really kind of are treating this like a pilot program. I am the point person for the advisory council, but we are looking for somebody to be the alternate. And I would wanted to propose that to the trust this evening, gauge interest in participating, because I think that this person would be a really big asset to the trust in terms of providing technical assistance, doing some research, analysis, general support. So I wanted to ask the trust if somebody was interested in participating so that I can have the agreement finalized and signed.
So
That's enough.
You want a representative from the trust to join you in discussions, or?
Yeah, the person would serve as an alternate. I don't think it would be a very heavy lift. I think I would be doing most of the work. Again, this person, when they are hired, the job posting is slated to go out sometime this month. I believe it's going to be toward the end of March. But I think the alternate would just be a kind of a really like more of a backup, and I would continue to confer with that person, but I would be doing the heavy lifting.
Okay. What's that, Dan? Oh, Dan just said he'd love to help you.
I had a question. So who determines who is the alternate? Just is that something that the select board chooses, or that we would choose, or I don't.
So I did bring this up at the most recent select board meeting. We did have somebody that offered to serve as the alternate. Should a member of the trust, any members of the trust not be interested in that position. So we do have somebody who did express interest, but I relayed to the select board that I wanted to ask the trust first, because this person is really probably going to be working and providing a strongly supportive role for the trust.
Yeah, I would definitely prefer one of us do it.
It just, as long as yeah. Hey, you want to do that?
Does anybody else want to do it?
No, just you. So I don't want to fight you for it.
I'll do it if you don't want to do it.
I nominate Ed.
All right.
All right. Ed will help you out.
Wonderful.
This is not going to be a replacement for Amber for what we're.
No, I think that this is something that we can, again, it's 4 hours a week for the first year. So we only have a little bit of time, but what this individual does will be really up to us.
And this is not, not just a substitute for going out and finding an assistant town planner. So that's still going to be something that's on the radar.
Yeah, the assistant town planner is something that we had to table for this fiscal year, but is on everyone's top priority list, at least my top priority list next fiscal year. Yeah, but so I think Bruce, having somebody, an additional support would be helpful for us.
In the TA update from our most recent meeting, Bruce, Evan said that the strategy is to add some additional capacity to the consultant that we've been using to assist planning.
Right.
So that's what we're going to do short term, but long term, the plan's the same. The way that this contract is structured with the housing coordinator, basically the advisory board that Fiona would be on determine what their priorities are.
Right.
So Grafton and all the towns would all have a representative from their planning staff and somebody else presumably from a housing trust or other, which would determine how this person's time gets allocated.
So Matt, is the long-term plan to hire an actual assistant town planner?
Yes,
Okay.
just not right now.
What's
The way, and I'll just relay
What should?
exactly what Evan said to us. He didn't want to saddle Fiona with having to train somebody up and bring them up to speed right now, while she's also doing the same thing.
Right, and we are using, our budget was that we decided ultimately that we would continue to have, we're working with another consulting firm as well. So she's providing her expertise as I get up to speed and I'm more settled, and then the top priority for next year will be the assistant planner posting. There was, my understanding, Matt, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there was some difficulties with hiring that position. There was one respondent, and ultimately it didn't work out. And because of that, we thought that this was just, proceeding the way that we are is the most logical avenue. But I think, again, this regional housing coordinator wouldn't be taking on, the responsibilities of an assistant planner. It's really more of a supportive role. I was really thinking about providing kind of information for us in terms of those like research and analysis tasks that are always on people's to-do list and we can never keep up with, and things of that nature.
All right. It's obviously, it's beneficial.
Well, I mean, there was just an affordable housing project that came up in Worcester that had 56 units and 1,700 applicants in the town next door to us. So I guess what I would be curious about right off the top of my head is, okay, well, how many of those people, those 1,640 something people who are still without adequate housing are going to be interested in, say, 5 Millennium Drive? Probably a fair amount, right? I mean, housing needs don't stop at town borders or community borders. It's always a regional problem. So yeah, this is if that's the sort of thing that this person can provide us with help with an analysis, then all the better.
Which is a good segue into the housing production plan. You had a meeting with Karen?
Oh wait, before Dan has a question.
Yeah, I have a question about, so with the for the future years with the cost, it looks like it comes out to about $80 an hour for the for this this consulting help. And then under that table, it says something about maximum starting salary $75,000. So I guess I'm kind of curious where the rest of that money goes. Seems like there's a big gap there.
Right. Yeah, I think that I can definitely circle back with
Insurance is
CMRPC and
expensive.
confirm.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I could definitely ask Connor at CMRPC, who's kind of spearheading this effort, about what that discrepancy would be. I did not catch that, so thank you.
Yeah, because it seems.
Yeah,
like
I mean, I think it would be a, again, this is really like a pilot for us, and we're, not saying that if we have to really evaluate this person's progress before we can continue with, staying in the program. So
Right.
I think more than anything, we're signing up for just 1 year to see, and then if we decide that this is working out quite well, then we can go back, we evaluate at the time.
Okay.
But I can definitely get you follow up with that.
Sophia, I watched the meeting last night, and I just have one more question about this. Can you assure us that this is not all part of a vast government conspiracy to ameliorate individual rights?
Yeah, no, I was not expecting. The conversation to get to that, but that was definitely interesting.
Just wait. It's gonna get weirder before it gets any better. That's for sure.
Does it get better?
I don't know. Just weirder.
So Fiona, you're meeting with Karen?
Yes, sorry. So I met with Karen and Katrina and Amber. When was that, Amber? Maybe like 2 weeks ago.
Last Friday? Or maybe
Last
the
Friday?
Friday
Wow.
before?
Okay. Yep. Sorry, I'm all over the place. But yeah, we met with her last week. We went over some data points with her. She's compiling information now. She's really doing her thing. She's going to be presenting a draft of the needs assessment fairly quickly, and then we're going once we when she presents those findings and we go through, and I'll have to go through and analyze what she's provided, double check for accuracy, et cetera. But yeah, we've been corresponding with her. She's kind of off and running. She's been reaching out to department heads, gathering additional data that she needs. And then from there, we're going to go into workshop planning. But she's really kind of been crunching the numbers and keeping me in the loop. And we provided her with the pertinent information that she needed up front in terms of what's currently in the pipeline, what was kind of recently approved, but really with more focus on what's happening right now. I know that she did want some information to get some context about what's been done since the previous housing production plan, but our conversation really focused more on snapshot of today. And so I got her that information, and
So
she seems like she's
one of the
going.
things
She's doing her thing.
we should reach out and ask her to do is if she can expedite some of the data points, seeing that
Okay.
there are a large number of LIP proposals that are coming through, making sure
Yep.
that we actually have a solid SHI number and a solid overall inventory, because
Yep.
it's going to change from proposal to proposal, but they're all using pretty old data. So if there's any substantive difference, even if it's 30 or 40, units that are needed to get us to safe harbor or get us over the 10% threshold, we should at
Yeah,
least try to get
and-
that available for everybody to use.
Right. With the new census numbers, she's anticipating a dip to bringing us to 9.1%.
Okay.
An update, yeah. With 8 Pine. That's with 8 Pine.
That's with 8 Pine.
Yep.
Yeah, so you can knock out 399 units.
Hopefully not.
Probably, though.
Judging from Bill's comment before, it
Yeah.
might be a bridge to nowhere. You had some questions you want.
Well, so that actually, this is an evening of great segues. It's like we're all in sync tonight. So that actually does lead me to my question about, because I've been doing this kind of a long time, and when I got involved, we were at 325 subsidized units, and we had to get to, I think it was like 735 or something like that. And when I read Bill's proposal, and he had us at 704 and at 9.85%, I was like, well, that can't be right, because certainly in the course of the past decade, we've added any number of units. So I think our housing inventory used to be, was 7,700, but now it's got to be in the 8,000s. Am I correct?
So the new count is 7,750.
7,000.
That when he had presented that, I had only gotten that updated number from Karen last week, so I actually did not get a chance to touch base that. When I touched base with him before, when he was doing his presentation, I have been quoting the 2010 numbers.
Okay. That's fascinating to me, because I thought that's what it used to be. But okay, if that's what it is, then we're still,
Yep.
I guess my second question is, at what point, and it's amazing after all these years, I don't really know this, because we haven't built much. At what point does something go from just being a proposal to being included in safe harbor? Because certainly 8 Pine is nowhere close to having a shovel in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And no certificates of occupancy have been issued. At what point do we start counting those units, and at what point do we lose them? Because I'm reading the tea leaves here in the politics about 8 Pine, and it seems to me that developer is having some trouble, and that project might not actually happen.
Right. So the planning department submits the request for inclusion to the SHI, and once that permitting mechanism is in place, with the decision from the ZBA, I submit it right. Well, I've been trying to proactively submit it right away. I've actually been working on that. I just finalized 2 submissions. I'm trying to get another one through, but we're waiting on. There was a couple of issues with Fisherville Terrace with their water main. And then it's our responsibility to continue to update DHCD with building permits and occupancy permits and the affirmative fair housing marketing plan and the following deliverables that they need. And if there is a time allowance for if I think it's one year. So I just.
I think it might, yeah, it's 1 or 2, but you have to, they get counted when the building permit's issued. But then they fall off if you don't get the certificate of occupancy within a period
Right.
of time.
The
Right.
current 2-year safe harbor expires next March, or so says the letter
Yes.
that we got from DHCD. But
March 6th. Yeah.
that was if they indeed got a building permit, which I believe you guys were negotiating with them. Because if you don't get the building permit in a certain amount of time after you're given your this
Comprehensive permit, right.
Yes, then you basically lose safe harbor status.
Okay, so this is important because it's important for the rest of the projects that we have going on and how we approach ZBA, and they've got a hearing on 59 Pleasant next week. You know, I was prepared to go into ZBA and make the argument that, look, you want to maintain safe harbor going forward. You want to be able to a certain degree, negotiate with developers, stay in that zone, get your 39 units a year, and be able to manage your growth. But March 6th, 2024 is basically tomorrow as far as Grafton goes, because things move so slowly around here. That's only 2 town meetings away. So I'm a little bit less worried about that, frankly. We've got 17 applicants for 25 Worcester Street. If I were the developer of 59 Pleasant Street, well, I would have any number of things to say going into that meeting, but one of them would be, sure, hold us up for an additional 6 months here, but you want to do that, we're coming back at you with a project. Like, we don't care what you say. Get ready for more density. So that's I think that's important for people to understand, that this particular safe harbor that we're in right now can go away real quick. And again, reading the tea leaves on GSX, it doesn't look good.
Right. And, we're still having conversations with them. So I'm, was reluctant to, we're trying to be strategic about how we're approaching this and how we are still in safe harbor right now. And we're going to continue to talk to them. However, your assessment is correct in that, it is concerning.
Oh, just to tie it in the March 16th meeting where ZBA is going to determine or get instruction on what they can and cannot do, or what they should or should not do. I'm not sure where it's going to go, but that's happening next week. So it'll be a good indicator or a good barometer of how these proposals are going to do. Because if I'm reading it correctly, in Safe Harbor, they could pick and choose one of these proposals as they come along. They don't even have to open the meeting for them. Or if they open it and they deny them access to the permitting process, they can do that. And then if you have 4 in queue, how do you manage those 4 to weigh them against each other? And who of them is going to want to be the one that, takes first bat and gets a waiver denied and can't come back for another 2 years?
Well, you withdraw the application before that happened. But I think that's really one of the things that you want to look at is the viability of the developer. That you're, to this presentation from Millennium, they have a much better probably track record at building and doing projects than perhaps GSX. I don't think they've done a 40B before. That's what you'd be looking at. I think is the resume of the developers and seeing which ones look like they'll be likely to actually produce something.
I don't have much confidence in the actual landscape. There are a lot of developments going on, but even these people who, are going to manage their own property and keep in their own portfolio, that's not to say that a year from now rates go up another point and they shelve this project for something else.
I think it's really difficult too, because all the developers that we've talked to have all been as confident as you could imagine in their ability to deliver the project. There's no developer that we've ever talked to that has had any hesitancy at all in their capabilities and their intention to build the project. So it's difficult to gauge that. I think looking at their historical track record probably makes some sense. So if we look at the 5 Millennium developer, they've been around for a very long time. And, the principal that we're talking with has quite a bit of experience with LIPs and 40Bs. And That's not true with a couple of the other developers that we're talking to. So I think there's definitely some things to look at in terms of the differences between the developers, but it is difficult to tell based on what they tell you.
Well, I mean,
Well,
you can't force them to bring $40 million to the table and say, yeah, we signed an agreement. We don't have a plan that's permitted, but we went out and asked somebody for 40 million bucks and they said, sure, go ahead.
Yep.
It just doesn't happen that way. So if you got a year and a half in a process with the ZBA, which is what they're going to be, you know, the rates could have gone up, you know, 2.5, 3 points on them, and then the whole project's gone. These guys could do their geotechnical stuff out there and you know, do exactly what we did when we put up the highway barn. And spend an additional couple $1 million because we missed a chunk of ledge.
Yeah, and I don't want to belabor the point on this, but you know, in doing what I do, I have a number of construction clients that are a lot of them are sort of in the same boat, where they purchased land back in 2019, COVID happened, supply chain issues happened, cost increases have skyrocketed, you know, the cost of lumber, the cost of materials, and then the lending, right? So in reading in the news this week that, you know, rates may well go up another 0.5 point in the next few months, which is why I think, you know, when we get a good developer, we need to be as supportive as humanly possible and get them to break ground quick, because a lot of what the feedback that I get from the public is, yeah, but look how much is in the pipeline. What's the pipeline? You know, some of the pipeline is a pipe dream. You know,
leaky pipeline.
yeah. And until I see shovels in the ground, I don't believe any of it. Frankly, I'm so jaded at this point. So yeah, I mean, so again, getting back to the SHI, well, it's great that, you know, we're at 9.1% potentially, but that 9.1% could go back to 5 or 4 pretty quick, you know, if GSX doesn't get their act together.
All right.
It's going to be contingent on that, the 72 building permit.
Ooh,
I believe it's April.
sure.
Great.
And I think you've been pulled in, so go ahead.
She's muted.
Yep, I've asked to unmute, so maybe,
Maybe it was a while ago.
yeah.
Okay. Anyone else?
That's all I got for now. We might have to have an additional meeting, coming up around the end of the month. But as of right now, we should be able to meet the second Thursday of April.
Perfect.
Does she still have her hand up?
Yes.
Yes.
Ann, you still? There
No,
we
she
go.
is.
Yeah, muted.
Oh,
Did you say she?
there she is.
There it is.
Gotcha.
Oh, she's here. Do you guys hear me?
Yep.
We can, Ann.
Yeah. I've had my hand up for like the whole meeting, but I will just say to the alternate, like for the CMRPC, I thought you were like looking for a rep in general. And so maybe you're looking for a rep, Fiona, relative to AHT. So yeah, I don't know.
Sorry, and can you say that one more time for me? Looking for a representative?
For the-
Yeah, so I'm kind of backing up because I've had my hand up for like most of the meeting. So I guess I will decline right now because so much of the meeting has passed. But
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
And I apologize. I don't actually have everybody who's currently in attendance. Typically, I do
Yeah.
have them up on the side, but I only have
Yeah.
6 people in the panel.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. I have some notes here, but like it's kind of all passed. So yes, no worries.
Well, if
Thank you.
If you like, just send them to Amber, and she can distribute them to us, and we'll pick them up on the this first meeting in April.
Will do. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that I missed in the? Okay, who else is in the attendees?
I don't have It's not showing me where I can display that for you.
That's right. You can just read them off.
I have Ann Foley, I have Bill Yeomans, I have BJ's S21. I have Diane Gagney, Mark A, Nancy P, and Steve.
Okay. Okay. Great. Anybody else have anything for tonight? Please get back to Amber if we're going to be in attendance in a quorum for the next meeting. I'll just make sure I don't believe the ZBA is going to want us to have representation there, but just in case, we might want to post a meeting. I'll reach out to ZBA at the beginning of the week. So, if you plan on attending the 16th meeting, please let Amber know.
I'm going to be there.
I'll be there as well. Great. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
By roll call. Eric?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Bruce is an aye. Thank you very much. We'll see you in a few. Kathleen, thanks for coming. Fiona, thank you for coming. And Amber, thank you for coming. We really appreciate the help.
Thank you all.